Showing you who I believe is the best player on every MLB team for the 2024 season. Let's hop right into it. So here we go. Starting it off with the Arizona Diamondbacks, I think that their best player for the 2024 season was easily Ketel Marte. He won third place in the NL MVP voting, and this guy deserved it. A 6.8 WAR, which is tied with Jose Ramirez, who almost hit 40-40 like Ohtani, which is insane. Now factor in that he hit 292, 36 home runs, 95 RBIs, and even stole 7 bases for an OPS at 932 in 504 at bats. Ketel Marte is a stud. He can hit both sides of the plate. That is extremely valuable in today's game, you're a guy that's really going to be playing most days because he can hit both sides of the plate. So Ketel Marte, so incredibly good. It was between him and Corbin Carroll, and I think that it's pretty obvious that it's Ketel Marte, as just so much value in this player. Just gets so many hits, and all the stats are just savant page all red. This guy's a stud. So for the Atlanta Braves, we have Chris Sale. Who else would it be? Maybe Marcell Ozuna? Well, the Triple Crown Award winner, who basically led the MLB in every stat, pitching-wise, probably is going to win it. Let's talk about stats here. In 29 games started, he won 18 of those games and lost 3 of them. The rest were to the relievers. He collected a 2.38 ERA, better than Tarek Skubal, the other Triple Crown Award winner, and he had 225 strikeouts with a whip just about at 1.01. And don't forget that he's a lefty, so he's basically facing a lot of right-handers, so he has the disadvantage most of the time. But that doesn't really matter because the guy's a stud. Even though he may be old, he still throws heat. This dude's insane. He even collected a 6.2 WAR as a pitcher. And, we're going to talk about pitching WAR, but that's insane. For the Baltimore Orioles, this was an easy one. It was Gunnar Henderson, him or Adley Rutschman, and you can look at the stats, and that shows exactly why I picked Gunnar Henderson right here, as in 630 plate appearances or at-bats, Gunnar Henderson had a hit 281, that's getting on base almost a quarter of the time, so that's basically a hit a game. He had 37 home runs in his sophomore season, which is insane, with the 92 RBIs, and he even stole 21 bases, so the guy has speed too. The OPS and the slugging, not too great, but still incredibly great on this list with an 893 OPS. And this total accumulated a 9.1 WAR, which is one of the better ones in the MLB. And this guy is so incredibly young. The Orioles have such a gimme as a player. When this guy hits free agency, he's going to be all over the market, if he even does, because he's so good, and they're just going to give him an extension because the dude is so good. Now let's talk defense. We don't need to. He's insane. For the Boston Red Sox, this guy had an incredible season. Jarren Duran. Let's talk about the All-Star MVP. Today, we have Jarren Duran, who is insane. He had a complete breakout year. It was bound to happen. He hit 21 home runs, not too bad, but not too shabby. He had 75 RBIs, but the slugging and the OPS and the average, it's all insane. 671 at bats. In total, he stole a lot of bases. He stole 34 bases. That's one of the better amounts in the MLB. Defensively, a god. This guy can run lightning fast. Now, why does he get his steals from? He hits bombs. He has a lot of power. He has a lot of muscle. He's insane in the field. And this in total got him to 8.7 WAR. In 671 at-bats, this guy is insane. And he's a righty, so, that doesn't really change much, but it's insane. He's the best center fielder or left fielder in the MLB, probably, if you look at them. Jarren Duran a stud. On to the Cubs. The Cubs. They had a couple guys that I could think of, Ian Happ, but yeah, he was it. But Shoti Imanaga, clearly on top. This guy came out lights out. He was 15-3 in 29 games. So he got 18 of the 29 games that he got a win or loss. And in 15 of the 18 games he won. That is insane. An ERA sub 3, which these days is fine because look at the other ERAs. It's going to be a lot higher than this. In 173.1 ERA, or innings pitched, that's a lot of innings pitched. This guy can pitch a lot, and he got 174 strikeouts. That average is about a strikeout an inning. So you basically see him pitch, and you're going to see him get a strikeout. With the whip, that's 1.02. That's just insane. And he's a lefty, too, so he has the disadvantage most of the time. He doesn't even throw fast. The thing is, he deceives the hitter with his pitching motion. Shota Imanaga, he's a stud. You want him on your team. To South. Garrett Crochet is probably the only White Sox that is even, worth talking about. The rest of the White Sox was just atrocious. On an atrocious White Sox team that was historically bad. He was 6-12, which may sound bad, but considering he's on the worst team ever, this guy was insane. If he plays for a team that isn't the White Sox, he gets 15 wins. He gets a high win number. You see teams on bad teams getting high numbers. This team is historically bad, and yet he's still getting 6 wins. That's insane. And ERA may not be too high, but you also realize that the defense is going to give up a lot of runs. It's not going to make those insane plays that save you some runs. He struck out 209 batters with a whip of 1.07, and this is all in 146 innings pitched with a WAR as a pitcher on the White Sox, 4.1. Pitching WAR is so incredibly insane that it doesn't even make sense. This guy's a stud on a bad team. What an all-star. For the Reds, it's Elly De La Cruz. It's between him and Hunter Green, and I had to choose the switch hitter, the most electric player, most fun player, fastest player in the MLB, Elly De La Cruz. This guy, in his sophomore season, had a batting average of 259. It's only because he strikes out a ton. That's the only thing I don't like in his game. He strikes out a lot. In fact, he led the league in strikeouts with 200 and something strikeouts, a lot of strikeouts. But, he's very, very good. Strikeouts don't really matter when he can run like lightning. After all, he did steal 67 bases. That's almost as many RBIs as he got. And this guy is definitely, when he breaks out fully, he is totally going to have a historic, home run stolen base record, like Acuna, like Ohtani with, the 50-50, 40-70, all that stuff. He's going to be one of them. He hits for power. He steals, mad bases. And in total, he's very good. For the Cleveland Guardians, this is J-Ram. It's between him and Emmanuel Clase, but J-Ram always gets underrated. Every single season. Jose Ramirez, the switch hitter that is impossible to take out of the lineup, impossible not to hit 2 or 3. He's insane at the plate. This guy quietly almost went 40-40. And this is only quietly because there's a guy named Shohei Ohtani in the opposite league that hit 50-50. If he wasn't in the league, then J-Ram probably would get so much more respect. It would have been way more talked about. And he even stole 41 bases. He has speed. He is such an incredible all-around player. He hits for power. He hits for contact. In 620 at-bats, he accumulated a 6.8 WAR. That's basically saying that he gets, that's, insane. 10 WAR per 100 at-bats. Or 1 WAR in 10 at-bats, basically. Just insane. Just insane with an 872 OPS. The RBI number, 118. This guy is out of this world good. The Guardians have such a great player, and he can even switch hit. His defense is so good. What else is there to say? He's an insane player. For the Colorado Rockies, they don't really have that many, studs on their team. So I had to go with Ezekiel Tovar. He's not really the guy that you want to be your best player on your team. But, if he is, then you probably just have a mid-team. And that's fine, because the Rockies don't have good pitching. And when you're playing cores every day in half your games, then you're probably not going to win that many games. However, Ezekiel Tovar helps the pitchers out because this guy's defense is bananas. So incredibly good. Hitting-wise, he gets a lot of hits. This dude underratedly gets 170 hits, 180 hits, a lot of hits. This guy just hits and hits and hits. Some things in his game that I don't really like the chase rate, swings and misses a lot, strikes out a lot. But, overall, insane player. Well, not insane player, but, very, very good. Incredibly solid. A guy that you really want on your team at all times. Very good. For the Detroit Tigers, this was an easy one. Probably the easiest one of the entire video. Tarek Skubal. Now, look at the Tigers lineup and tell me that there's a guy better than the Triple Crown Award winner. I mean, you can't find anyone. This guy, basically identical numbers to Chris Sale. The WAR a little bit lower, the game's a little bit higher. 18 wins, same as Chris Sale. One more loss than Chris Sale, but that doesn't matter because he's playing on the Tigers and Chris Sale's playing on the Braves. Basically the same ERA, 2.93. Roughly the same amount of innings pitched, basically the same amount of strikeouts, and a whip of 0.92. This guy, as a left-hander, throws 101 miles an hour at his fastest. And he's a big dude, too. Very tall, and yeah. Tarek Skubal is such a god. I mean, there's literally, nothing else to even talk about with this guy because he's so good. The Triple Crown Award winner, the AL Cy Young Award winner. I mean, it was just bound to happen. This guy is so incredibly good. His breakout finally came. Well, he probably had already happened, but so incredibly good. There's nothing else to say. Now for the Houston Astros. This was a tough one until I started looking at the stats. I was like, who could this be? Then I checked to see the stats, and I was like, Yordan Alvarez is leading 67%, 2/3 of the stats. Then I realized that there was no one else to pick. So I went with Yordan Alvarez. And the dude mashes 35 home runs. You can lock that in every season. He hits a lot of home runs. He stays healthy most of the season. Extremely valuable. And OPS hovering below 1,000. That's insane. 86 RBIs. Maybe not the highest in RBIs, but that's because he's one of the higher hitters. So he usually hits solo home runs. Insane. He accumulated a 5.4 WAR in 552 plate appearances. That's basically 0.1 WAR per 10 at bats, basically. So he's very good. And he even hit for an average. he's not all power. He's very contact too. The power god also can hit for some contact. He hit 308. No, people don't talk about that. They talk about his home runs because he's Yordan Alvarez. He's Air Yordan. The air comes from home runs. That's it for the Bobby Witt Jr. team, a.k.a. the Royals. It's the Bobby Witt Jr. team because, he's such an incredible player. In his third season in the majors, he's already accumulated a 9.4 WAR season. Like, what the heck? This guy hurts my brain to look at his stats. If we talk about the best all-around player ever, probably, he's insane. I bought his rookie card, and look at me, probably going to make some money. 977 OPS, 31 stolen bases, 109 RBIs, 32 home runs. That's Yordan Alvarez, higher average. He had so many at-bats. He stayed healthy the entire season. So incredibly valuable as he can hit both sides. This guy is insane. Defensively, a god. He makes every play. He makes them look easy. He's so incredibly good. What else is there to say? For the Angels, they don't really have anyone that's especially good other than Mike Trout. But he didn't really play enough for me to really say he's better than Tyler Anderson. He is a 0.1 WAR per game, as 3.1 WAR in 31 games, 10 and 15 on a horrible Angels team. So, you can see that that's pretty good. Made the All-Star team. That's basically the only reason why I really recognized him. And if you look at his stats, they're not too shabby. 142 strikeouts, not the highest, but very, very good on an Angels team. 1.29 whip, which is exceptionally great. And he even accumulated a not-so-bad WAR. What was that 3.1 WAR? And I've already talked about this. Pitcher WAR, so incredibly hard to get. But he's so good. Strikes out not too many batters. And his ERA a little bit high, but that doesn't matter because he's playing on the Angels. So if he goes to a contender, he's going to be much better. For the Dodgers, by far the easiest, even though I already said that for Tarek Skubal. But who else? I would be rude to pick anyone that isn't Shohei Ohtani. This guy had an unbelievable season. Like the Bobby Witt numbers and his numbers are just as amazing to look like. All of the savant page numbers, 99 percentile in what seems like everything. And 1,036 OPS. What the heck? He stole almost 60 bases. That's Ellie De La Cruz RBI number. His own world. 54 home runs. That's Aaron Judge average. That's a little less than Vladdy. And the great contact hitters. He stayed healthy basically the entire season. Maybe an injury, a small injury, but he played so many games, so healthy. He's a lefty. He gets the advantage every time. He's so incredibly good. And this guy was a DH and he won the MVP. And he can still pitch. Now just imagine how good a player that can win MVP as a DH is when he can also pitch. Don't forget that this guy is one of the better pitchers, and he can hit too. He can't be the best pitcher and the best hitter. That's just unfair. He's breaking the MLB. He's insane. He's the best player since Babe Ruth. If you get his card, you basically get a Babe Ruth card. It's insane how good this guy is. And then now we take a turn for the Marlins. They have, their fair share of mid players. But Jake Berger is probably the most exceptional on this team. I mean, to be fair, he really didn't do much other than hit home runs. He hit 30 home runs. It's very good. He got on base a quarter of the time, or he got a hit a quarter of the time with a 250 average and 535 at bats. So he stayed healthy most of the season. And he even stole a base. And so maybe not the fastest player, but he can hit for power, and that's what you want. You look at these stats and you're like, well, I wonder why Jake Berger is, I wonder what his WAR would be like. And yeah, it's a 0.5, so probably the worst WAR in this video. But, he can hit for power. And on a bad Marlins team, well, now he's traded to the Rangers, but when he was on the Marlins, he provided them some value because he was that guy that was going to hit a home run every, 5 games, and just insane. And very, very good on this Marlins team, and a great addition for the Rangers. Now for the Milwaukee Brewers, this one is between two guys, William Contreras and Willy Adames. Now, I think personally it goes to William Contreras because one, he's a catcher and he was like the best catcher in the MLB. Willy Adames, he may have been best brewer, but honestly, I think that it's William Contreras because simply for this reason only, I was having a tough time finding who it would be. So I looked at the stats and they're basically the same. So I just went, well, William Contreras is still on the Brewers, and this is about the Brewers and not the Giants, which now Willy Adames is on. So I said, well, it's going to be William Contreras. Now, he was also insane, so let's not say it was my opinion. This guy was also insane. In 595 at-bats, almost 600, he accumulated a 4.9 WAR. That's basically 5. He had a 281 average, 23 home runs. Not too shabby. And yeah, that's all you need to know about it. For the Minnesota Twins, it is Carlos Correa. I don't care what you say about he played like half the season. No, I don't care. He's insane. That I've said everyone is insane, so just don't get mad at me for saying that. Because they're all insane, and I'm going to keep saying insane. Because insane is a great word. Now let's get back to Carlos Correa. He was also a defensive god this season in the 319 at-bats that he played. He hit 310, so very, very good. He hit 14 home runs in 319 at-bats. He accumulated a 3.7 WAR. That's very, very good. And he hit a lot of home runs, too. The leg, a little bit rough with 0 stolen bases. But, we don't talk about that as he hit 905 on the OPS. Very, very good. The RBI number, maybe not too high, but also factor in half of these, home run, RBI runs, all that numbers. He probably would have gotten more if he could stay healthy the entire season. Very, very, very good. I don't think that there's much else to say. Moving on to the New York Mets. This one was between two guys, and I think that it's not really between the two. It was Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor, but it's clearly Lindor, though. No offense to Pete Alonso, but this guy was insane. He had 844 on the OPS. Now, that's not too great. The average, 273. Not too great. But it's also very, very, very good comparing to the other guys on this list. He hit 33 home runs. That's very, very good. He was he was the best defensive player. He was insane at defense. I'm surprised he didn't win a Gold Glove. And he was healthy basically the entire season. He played 60 games or something, very, very close to all of them. He was really never injured. He played missed one game because he was sick. But that's it, though. 6.9 WAR. He finished second in the NL MVP voting. Only behind Shohei Ohtani. What else is there to say? Defensive god. Hits for power. Hits for contact. He's Mr. Clutch. Hits a bunch of hits in the postseason. Very, very, very good. He had a ton of walk-offs. That home run off of Carlos Estevez. No offense, Philly fans, but very, very good. Now for the Yankees, this is simply Aaron Judge. I mean, if, this is close. It honestly didn't seem right to have Aaron Judge and Juan Soto on the same team. Good thing it was only a 1-year deal because Juan Soto looks much better in a Mets hat. And I only say that because I'm a Mets fan. But let's get to Judge. Judge hit 11 WAR? 11 WAR? 10.8? 11 WAR? Like, what? What the heck? That's insane. He hit 58 home runs, 144 RBIs. He stole 10 bases. His OPS, 1,159. This looks like my video game numbers. Like, it's better than them. Like, honestly, if I saw this for one of my players in a game, I'd be like, this guy needs to be on my team. He's so incredibly good. This is like video game-like numbers. Like, what are we doing here? He hits it every time, that slump. But that was it, though. And he finished it off in the most grandest way. Hit like a walk-off grand slam. Like, what the heck? I mean, there's nothing else to say. Mason Miller is simply the best athletic. There's no one else really to choose from. I mean, it's, basically him. And he's very, 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 very good. 2-2. On the athletics, 2-2 is very good. 55 games. He's a reliever. He throws a lot of games. It's a 2.49 ERA, 65 innings pitched total, and 104 strikeouts. In 65 innings, this guy struck out everyone. And his 0.88 whip. Like, these are, like, also, not really video game numbers, but very, very close. This is, like, my video game numbers, like, so incredibly good. Like, he throws 103. This guy is so good, so young. The Athletics got a really good closer in Mason Miller. Number 19 is a beast. For the Phillies, a tough one between Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, and Zach Wheeler. I had to go with Zach Wheeler because he was the opening day starter. Just kidding. That's not the reason. It's because he's an absolute stud. So underrated considering he's on the Phillies. I mean, he's Zach Wheeler. What else can I tell you? He's an insane stud. Talk about stats now. 224 strikeouts. That's a lot of strikeouts. That's, Chris Sale and him for the strikeouts. Like, that's close. ERA. Second place. Like, this guy's like the second best NL pitcher. Like, very, 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 very good. That whip in 32 games, which is like a lot in the MLB. Like, not a lot of pitchers pitch 32. They get like 30, 31, 29. He pitched that extra game. He went that extra mile. He got a whip of 0.96, which is like insane. Like, that's a really good whip. That's like reliever-like whip. And he pitched in 32 games. Like, full started games. Like, that's insane. 16 wins, 7 losses. Like, he is such a stud out there. He, like, never gives up runs, it feels like. Even though it says there's 2 runs for the Reds. No, that's from another team. We're a pitcher. I mean, he's so good. For the Pirates, they don't really have that many players that are good. So I ended up going with their rookie phenom, like Roki Sasaki, Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens is definitely the best Pirate. I honestly sometimes get the Pirates logo confused. I see the Pirates P and I'm like, Paul Skeens. Because I see P and I'm like, in the Pirates logo and I'm like, Paul Skeens. That's how good he is. I refer to him. A Zach Wheeler like whip. A Zach Wheeler like everything. This guy's like a better Zach Wheeler because he has a lower ERA. Too bad he didn't qualify, as Chris Sale wouldn't have won the Triple Crown because his ERA is a 1.96. Now just think about what he would have done if he had joined the league at opening day. He's going to be the opening day starter. What a stud, too. 170 strikeouts in 133 innings. I mean, he struck out like a lot of players, and he didn't even pitch in that many games. Like 23 is a lot, but like it's not that many though. Like, I just can't wait to see what he does in a full season. And keep in mind, he had a 5.9 WAR. What? That's insane for a pitcher? Postkins is a beast. Now, the guy that can never stay healthy, Fernando Tatis Jr., insane, so crazy insane, so good. If he could only stay healthy for an entire season, the numbers he would put up. 21 home runs, that's a lot of home runs in half the season. An 832 OPS, he stole 11 bases. With about 50 RBIs, 2.6 WAR is not that great. But with the guy that, his defense is incredibly good, it did drop down from the Platinum Glove Award winner, caliber fielding, to this one, despite the injuries. What an insane player. This guy is just a beast. Forget about the injuries. This guy is so good in San Diego. He looks so good in a Padres uniform, I have this, Okay. There's nothing else to say about him. 2.6 WAR. What a stud he is. I'm speechless. He's so good. And moving on to the San Francisco Giants, we got Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman, I threatened to call him Mr. Underrated. What the heck? This guy's season was incredibly underrated. Look at the average. Look at the OPS. Look at the stolen bases. Look at the RBIs. You would not expect the dude to have had gotten a 7.1 WAR. 90% of the WAR is F WAR. 10% of the WAR is B WAR. The total WAR, 7.1. Now just think about how good that defense could be. Well, it may be the best third base defense in baseball. Let's just give him a moment of silence just to see how good this guy was at third base. So incredibly good. What a dude. And so good. So valuable. Just so valuable. If you have a guy that is not too shabby at hitting, you get 27 home runs. If you have a guy that can steal a couple of bases here and there. So good. Now for the Mariners. This is, an easy one. I wish it was J-Rod, but it's unfortunately Cal Raleigh. You know what? It's not unfortunate because respect to Cal Raleigh. He's a beast. 4.7 more as a catcher, insane. Big Dumper had a 220 average. He's basically second number Kyle Schwarber number 2. He had 100 RBIs on the dot. Let's go. Clap it up for 100 on the dot. He stole 6 bases as Big Dumper, who got on base, who got a hit 220 out of 1,000%. That's 22% of the time. Mid. But insane power. Don't even forget that this dude is a switch hitter. A lot of people forget that. He's so incredibly good. There's really not too much to say about Cal Raleigh. I don't really like the average, so he's not the complete player. He's not Bobby Witt Jr. level. He's probably not going to be there if he stays being Kyle Raleigh, but Big Dumper is such a freak of nature. I mean, he's so good, so good. What else can I say about Cal Raleigh? He's a switch hitter. He's a catcher. That's a switch hitter. He plays in, a lot of games. And, yeah. So, for the Cardinals, I think that this one is tough. Because Nolan Arenado is, falling off. You can see a decline in his play. He's not the same platinum glove third baseman, but he's very good, so I had to go with Sonny Gray. Let's give him some love. The forecast is always sunny when he's on the mound. Whip 1.09, just insane. 203 strikeouts in 166.1 innings. That's bananas. The ERA, not too great, with the 3.84, but if you're Sonny Gray, it doesn't matter. And he played in 28 games, so he's healthy the entire season. 13.9 with the 1.8 WAR as a pitcher. The WAR, you can say what you want about that. Argue with me that it's someone else, but I think that it's him. And I can't go this entire part without mentioning Ryan Helsley. Sonny Gray, I had to give it to him because Ryan Helsley, he's not on another level. Honestly, he's just a boring pitcher. He's a closer that gets a lot of saves and strikeouts. He throws fast, but I think it goes to Sonny Gray. Brandon Lau is simply the best Ray of the 2024 season. In the 2023 season, in the 2025 season, it's Shane McClanahan every day. Every day, the Rays pitching, so incredibly good. They're hitting, not so incredibly good. So, if they can get a hitter like Brandon Lau, if every player had the decency of, Brandon Lau, they would be a very good team. And they were contenders in the recent history, so very good. Despite the injuries from Brandon Lau, he was able to post 244 average, 21 home runs, and 58 RBIs. He stole 5 bases, and he had 784 on the OPS. I mean, Brandon Lau, on the Rays, they don't really have that many, studs at the plate between him and Yandy Diaz. But I ended up going with him. So, now for the Texas Rangers. This one, tough. But, this entire team was, rough, tough. But it's all from the World Series hangover, This team was not expected to do good in 2024. So, they were not projected to be good. And they were. They won the World Series, so this is the year of World Series hangover. Now, Corey Seager is the best player on this team because he was overall consistent. He had a 5 WAR. He posted 30 home runs with the 74 RBIs. He stole 1 base, and he hit 865 on the OPS. He got a couple of injuries here and there, caught the injury bug, as we like to call it, but he's Corey Seager. He's very, very, very good. Not else much to say about him. The defense is getting better, and he's just he's a stud. He's Corey Seager. Not much else to say about him other than he still hits for power. He also hits for contact. And he is a playoff stud, as we saw in the previous season. Now, for the Toronto Blue Jays, this one is Vladdy. There's no one really else to pick. You go to the bullpen. They didn't really have a strong bullpen. Go to the starting pitching. They had some good starters, but no one special. So, it's Vlad. Plus, Vladdy is totally back. And everyone knows it. He is so incredibly good. Now let's talk about some stats. 30 home runs. What? And he had 323 average. Those numbers alone are insane. He had a 940 OPS, 103 RBIs. Now you're collecting a WAR with those numbers. And yeah, he got a 6.2 WAR. A little less than Marte and Ramirez. But overall, Vladdy is back. Vladdy is back. And he is insane. And he can even field a little bit too. Not the greatest glove. He's working on that. He might move over to third base. Now tell me in the comments, do you think Vladdy's staying with Toronto, or do you think he's getting traded to another team? And if so, which team? Because I genuinely wonder. Now, Vladdy is just really, really good. And now for the Washington Nationals. This one is fairly simple. You may say C.J. Abrams, but I disagree with you. I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing that, but I think that it's definitely Luis Garcia Jr., as this guy was probably easily the best National because it's incredibly underrated. He hit 282. That's very, very good. He hit almost 20 home runs. Also very, very good. These stats alone, very, very good. And he gets him up to a 2.2 WAR total. 500 at-bats on the dot. Clap it up. 500. And he hit 762 OPS. 22 stolen bases, too. So the dude isn't slow. And, his defense, not too bad. But he's had those games where he just makes play after play after play after play. Like that game in the Dodgers, against the Dodgers, that was insane. He just made a play after play, diving like he was insane. I mean, nothing not to like about this guy. He's a second baseman that you want on your team. If he's a free agent and you have a hole at second base, you need. So there they are, the best players from every team, MLB team, in the 2024 season. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and hopefully subscribe. Not forcing that, but thanks for watching. Bye.